it's the crew.
Yo, what's poppin', Crew Nation? You already know who it is, what it is, and what we do, baby. It is your boy Jay, and today we're talking about features. And not just any features. We're talking about features with secular artists. Now, look, I personally don't like to use the term secular, okay? All it means is not sacred, but I believe it has a bad connotation to it. I like to personally say mainstream, because that's not saying that the person that doesn't do Christian music is any better or any worse than the person that decided to make Christian music. So I like to say mainstream, and we will utilize the word mainstream throughout this video. This conversation comes up from a couple months ago. Caleb Gordon said, hey, I stumbled across the GOAT's record, Blessings. That's Lecrae featuring Ty Dolla $ign. And somebody convinced me that this is Christian. It's not a Christian record. Somebody tell me. And as he continued to speak, it became very clear that the reason he felt this way was because Ty Dolla $ign was on the record, and Ty Dolla $ign doesn't typically make Christian music. Now, has Ty Dolla $ign been a part of Christian records? Yes, he has. Jesus is King, he was on that Kanye West record, okay? Fred Hammond was on that record too, just to show you all that there was a plethora of people on there. Clips reunited on that record as well. So it seemed to me that his main issue was the fact that there was an artist that was not Christian on the record, therefore disqualifying the record as Christian. Then shortly after, Alex Jean, who has been seen with Caleb Gordon in certain areas, so his statement really isn't a surprise that it's not far off from Caleb Gordon. It was like, look, here's why I won't do a record with a secular artist.
This is why I won't make no song with no other secular artist, okay? All right, check this out. I always hear these two arguments. It's always, you can reach other people that may have never heard the message, and then if they just don't cuss on the song and keep it positive, then it's cool. But here's my take on that. If it's just positive music, then it's just positive music. But don't call that mud Christian. Because if you're going to hop on a song and just not cuss, that doesn't mean it's a Christian song. You didn't talk about any Christian values. You didn't represent anything. You didn't give anybody anything. You didn't edify anyone. It's just positive art. You know what I'm saying? And if I just wanted to make positive art, I would have just made positive music and not held myself to the degree of Christian. You know what I'm saying? Because that mug come with persecution. That mug come with people judging you while you do your stuff. That come with you got to represent the lifestyle. That mug comes with like you got to know what you talking about.
Caleb Gordon's like, yo.
I was going through your Twitter, bro. I see this tweet. It says, Drake gonna ask for a feature one day, and I'm going to say no. And I was like, all right, I feel you. Okay. I'm like, okay, the biggest artist in the world, probably the biggest artist to ever touch earth. He's asking, like, you for a verse or you be on his song, and you going to say no.
No.
What's your mindset behind it? What was you like?
Bro, he's not bigger
that?
than Jesus Christ.
You're right.
So Jesus can't, you telling me Jesus can't get my song all across the world to the people that Drake reaches?
That's a bar.
God is God. Jesus, look,
Talk
the
that
Bible
talk.
is global.
Yep. Talk that talk.
Everybody know the Bible.
Talk that talk.
So he could literally, Paul, he wrote them letters. He wasn't like, yo, millions of years from now, they finna be saying my letters. He didn't know that.
Yeah.
But he wrote them letters, and now we can't forget them.
We can't.
So if he do that with Paul, why he can't do that with us?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
But again, I told you guys that just over a year ago, Caleb Gordon, when Kodak Black was going through his whole change and he was seen praying and trying to get his life back right, Caleb Gordon was the first one to say, hey, day one of trying to get Kodak Black on my record. Now, to Caleb Gordon's point, Caleb Gordon said, hey, I was wrong. I shouldn't have did that. I was just trying to jump out there and do that. My bad. And guys, look, I don't like talking about Caleb Gordon this way. I'm a huge fan of Caleb Gordon. I believe that he's one of the biggest and one of the brightest stars that we have within Christian hip hop and doing Christian hip hop. And there will always be a lane for the type of music or the type of stance that Caleb Gordon takes. Okay? Just look at Flame. Just look at The Truth. Look at different ones like that stayed in a certain lane when Christian hip hop was going a different way, right? I just don't believe you take the opportunity to say, hey, if it was me, I wouldn't do it, right? Because to me, it looks a little bit prideful when you do things like that. Because that's you going against the grain, right? Most people, there's two parts of Christian hip hop. You have the ones that would do it in a heartbeat. And then you have the ones that's like, yeah, no, that ain't really for me. I don't really want to confuse my fans that way and blah, blah. And neither side is 100%, right? Obviously, I rock with the side that says that they would, but I have my reasons for that, and I'll give those in a second. See, one of the things I love about these conversations is that it always brings out the artist to give their true opinions about certain topics. If we didn't bring these topics up, then these conversations would be had, smallly or in the dark somewhere. But when we bring up these topics, it allows people to give their true opinion publicly, right? One of my favorite artists to listen to speak is Mission, because he's not going to hold back for nothing. This genre hasn't treated him fairly all the time. And so even though he keeps his head down and he does what he's supposed to, he never misses an opportunity to give you the real when everyone likes to sugarcoat things. Mission says, if you won't do a song with a secular artist, then stop listening to their music, stop sounding like them, stop doing covers to their songs, and stop stealing their sauce. You support them privately, bash them publicly, and publicly take their style. Boo! That part gets me every time. But Mission has a point. See, the issue I have with this stance is that your inspiration comes from these artists that you claim you would not do a feature with. Your mannerisms, your cadence, your beat selection. You're following the trend of what's hot, and you wouldn't know this unless you listened to these artists. One of the things Caleb Gordon said was, look, the reason I wouldn't do this is because they ain't Jesus. They're not bigger than Jesus. And Caleb Gordon has a point. I don't need my music. I don't need a mainstream artist to make my music go global. And he's absolutely correct, because with DSPs, with social media, you can reach further than ever before. And in Caleb Gordon's case, he is being mentioned by professional athletes. He's having certain celebrities utilize his music. But I still call Cap Captain Marvel, Captain America, Cappity Cap El Capitan. Because your inspo, and not just Caleb Gordon, to everyone that has this stance, your inspiration obviously comes from these mainstream artists. When y'all are in these interviews and you're asked about your favorite artist, or who do you draw inspiration from, I don't hear nobody say Jesus. In your videos, I don't see you wearing flip-flops. I don't see you trying to take the two-piece fish dinner and multiply it and feed the multitude. I don't see that in your music videos. What I see is you taking a popular record and remixing it and putting Christian lyrics on it. Half the time you don't even change the cadence, right? For example, one of Caleb Gordon's biggest records is God is a G. The Devil's a L. got church in the AM. But this is a record that became popularized by Jack Harlow, who was talking about being a G, having sex in the AM, and I could put you in first class. So even though you didn't utilize a mainstream feature, you utilized a record that was meant for mainstream success and utilized it for your own situation. These flips can be very, very dope. This is one of Caleb's biggest records. My kids love this record better than the original. So he did something right. I will always mention Mike Teasy in these situations because he knows what he's doing when he flips records. I have no issue with that. Listen to me. I'm just saying it's kind of difficult to say that you wouldn't do one thing, but something else shows a different side. Alex Jean said, look, when I flip a record, I'm not doing anything but taking a record and putting it back to its original purpose, which is for God. Right? Paraphrasing, but that's what he said. All right, sounds good. But I believe that the purpose, it wasn't so, God, I'm about to redeem this record for you. No. What it was, dang, that record is hot. But I'm going to go ahead and put these Christian bars on it. And there's nothing wrong with it. And that record being as hot as it was got more people to find out about not Jesus, you. A lot of times when these artists are in interviews and they say, well, who's your inspiration? Who's some of your favorite artists? There is no mention of a Christian or Christian hip hop artist. Most of the time, there's the Kendrick Cole, Drake, Ye. Those are the popular answers, and those are the answers that are given most times. As much as it sucks, I don't hear nobody saying, oh yeah, I draw a lot of my inspiration from Cray. Cray is one of my favorite artists, and he's the GOAT. Cray, The Truth, Dayton, Bizzle. And what y'all say? So, I find it hard to believe that if your inspiration comes from these artists, and these are some of your favorite artists, that if you receive that phone call, you're going to be like, yeah, nah, I ain't going to be able to do it. And then to say, well, if you have a mainstream artist on your record, then it's no longer Christian. Says who? I'm a Christian artist. I do Christian music. And when that artist came on my song, he abided by the parameters for which I set forth for how he's able to make music with me. If he doesn't do it this way, the record ain't coming out. I believe Jared Sanders had a situation where he had a record with a big artist or a mainstream artist, and he got the record back, and the mainstream artist cussed all on the record, and he just didn't put it out. He couldn't put it out. He ain't saying he wouldn't do a mainstream feature, but for what I'm doing over here, it ain't appropriate. You can have that record. Does that make him less or more of a Christian than somebody who just refused it outright? I don't think so. But see, I think that there's a sense of pride in that situation. I'm going to go against the grain because I know every Christian hip hop artist, or most of them, would take a mainstream feature. So let me say that if I get the call, I won't. And that's easy to say when you're not getting a call. But if one of them people call, I find it very hard to believe that you would deny that feature. And even if you did you deny it because you wanted to honor God, or did you deny it because you said you would? Look, I told you. When we did an interview with Kel Mitchell, We didn't want to do an interview with Kel Mitchell because he was Christian or because he knew about the space. We wanted to interview Kel Mitchell because he was Kel Mitchell. Because this is a guy that we have watched coming up as children. Because he was a very intricate part of our childhood. Whether he was Christian or not, that was going to be huge, a huge moment for us. If we get the call from Drewski, if we get the call from Desi Banks, Nick Cannon, I don't care whether or not you're Christian. That moment is going to be dope because we watch you. And I know people say, well, what about if your fans, they see them on there, on your platform, and then they go and check them out? Well, I would hope that my fans are smart enough and have the wherewithal enough that if they don't agree with what they see on their page, they don't want to watch it. Our interview is a good interview. I'm just saying, when we interviewed Bryson Gray, we didn't interview Bryson Gray because he's a super Christian. We didn't interview Bryson Gray because he thinks the same we do. As a matter of fact, we interviewed Bryson Gray because we appreciated his difference of perspective. We interviewed Bryson Gray because he goes against the grain. We didn't know what he was going to say. If that is your choice or that's what you're going to do, look, all the power to you. But sometimes I feel like that it just seems as if you're jumping on top of a high horse and you're condemning or having condescending comments while you're on top of this high horse to show that you're more Christian than the next man or that your values are better than the next man's. And that's just something I can't get with. Again, if you got that call, you're going to take it. Because your actions show, your music shows, your videos show that is who you draw inspiration from. I don't know everything. So maybe there are some people out there that would do so. But on both sides. If you wouldn't, then don't and go about your business. You ain't got to be all like, hey, let me put this out so I can tell everybody that this is where I stand. And if you would, same thing. Well, I mean, if it was me, there could be pride in both sides of it. But I don't know, man. What you all think? Hit that like button, hit that red subscribe button, put it in the comments. Let me know. Big deal or no big deal in regards to mainstream features. And it's on.